Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to the Mid-Level Media channel, your hub for everything physical media and entertainment. I am Ken, and I just watched LA Story last night, this movie starring Steve Martin, this new Lionsgate release, and I wanted to talk about it with you guys, do a little review, do a little let's talk about of this movie, because it was a pretty fun movie. I had a good time with it. Came out in 1991, but before I get into it, guys, I want to ask that if you are not yet a subscriber of the Mid-Level Media channel, what are you waiting for, guys? I cover Blu-rays, I cover 4Ks, I do physical media reports, I do Blu-ray hunting video. If you like physical media, if you like Blu-rays, if 4Ks, DVDs, all that stuff, hit the subscribe button for more great content. Also, be sure to like this video, guys, and comment down below. Have you seen LA Story? Did you purchase this new Lionsgate release? Let me know your thoughts on this, and let me know if you're gonna pick it up. I will be leaving the link for purchase in the description below. So, let's get into talk about this movie, because you know I like to talk about the movie before I get into like the more technical aspects of these releases. And first off, what I want to say is I think it's pretty cool that Lionsgate's kind of going back and doing these like more older, like obscure romantic comedies from the early 90s. You don't usually see this type of work out of Lionsgate. You see it a lot with Kino Lorber, with Shout Select, you know, some of the other boutique labels, but just like Lionsgate putting out a new release of like an older film, you don't see that too often unless it's like a new 4K, or if it's a new 4K Steelbook or something along those lines. It's just, it feels out of the ordinary for Lionsgate to do this kind of work. And I just want to say that I appreciate it, and I hope to see more of it out of this label, because this slipcover too is just, it's out of control for this movie. But yeah, LA Story, I'd never seen this movie before. I don't even know if I ever heard of this movie, but this came out in like the early 90s, kind of Steve Martin era. Obviously, he was a big star in the 80s and stuff. You know, he did Parenthood, I think, a couple of years before this. Three Amigos in the 80s, a bunch of other movies that I'm sure I'm blanking on. But I think this is around the same time he did a movie called Roxanne, which I did watch a couple years ago, which I think, you know, was also starring Daryl Hannah. Mill Creek released that, so I did watch that release. That was a pretty fun movie. So this is around the time where he was not only starring and stuff, but he was writing his own material as well, because he wrote this movie. I think he wrote Roxanne as well. This was around the same time he also did Father of the Bride, which is a big hit for him. Father of the Bride Part 2, I think that both of those were in the early 90s as well. So he was going through this phase of his career where he was getting a little bit older. He's around mid-40s in this movie, I think around 46. This is a really fun movie. This is a really fun take on like just life in LA at like the end of the 80s and the early 90s, because this movie, it takes place in the 90s, but it also feels very 80s, because it is like just coming out of that 80s era. You know, everybody's, you know, obsessed with like health and stuff like that and wellness, and you start to see those trends, just like the workouts people and stuff walking in the streets, and it feels very 80s, but it's in the early 90s. So I did like the setting, the aesthetic to this movie. You know, Steve Martin's a very charming, charismatic guy, always has been. And in this one, it really is kind of like a, I wouldn't say a love triangle, but more like a love square. It is a love triangle, but he starts off with his wife, or not wife, but I think it's his like longtime girlfriend or something. She's real bitchy and snooty, and she's cheating on him and stuff like that. So he quickly like dumps her early on, or she dumps him, or I forget the exchange that they have, but she's cheating on him. I think he leaves her. Then goes off with Sarah Jessica Parker, which he met in some kind of clothing store. Sarah Jessica Parker, she's really young in this movie. She's probably like 26. She's super cute. I mean, it's Sarah Jessica Parker in her prime. She's like, she looks amazing in this movie. So he kind of, you know, has a little fling with her. But then there's this other girl. She's like a news reporter from England that comes in. She's brought in by his friend, which is played by Richard, or not Richard. Am I saying that wrong? Is it Richard Grant or Rupert Grant? It's one of those. This movie has a lot of people in it, but Richard E. Grant, so he's been in a lot of movies recently, I think, popping up, but he's in this movie, a very young Richard E. Grant. He kind of brings this other actress into the this other character. Mary Lou Henner is her name. So she's a little bit older. She's more on like the same age as Steve Martin, which I like, because you do have the younger like female girlfriend of Steve Martin in this, which I feel like a lot of these type of movies, they take these older male characters and they place them with girls half their age, and that's the love interest of the film. I like this movie's spin on it because they could have just had this movie be about him and Sarah Jessica Parker falling in love, and that could have been the movie. But I like the fact that they acknowledge that Sarah Jessica Parker is half his age. She's not going to be his romantic companion. She's too young for him. And he has this other romantic interest who is of his age. So I like that they have that, because with a lot of these films, they'll usually just have the guy go after the girl that's half his age, and that'll be that. So I like the angle that they're placing him with somebody that's of his age. So I appreciate that kind of storytelling. So yeah, he has the fling with Sarah Jessica Parker, but then it's this thing where the girl's having her fling with Richard E. Grant, and then they kind of have to realize that they have a crush on each other, they're falling for each other, and then by the end they're both together. So that's kind of the classic rom-com rules there. They're at odds through most of the film. They're kind of trying to fight their attraction to each other, and then they finally get together at the end. So it's a nice little, like I said, love romantic comedy type movie. So yeah, I'll say overall I really enjoyed this movie a lot. I like the characters, I like the performances. There's a lot of cameos and just well-known actors that you know from other stuff in this movie. You got Rick Moranis in this film that shows up with like this Scottish English type accent. You got Patrick Stewart, Sir Patrick Stewart shows up in this movie. Woody Harrelson's like his boss at the weather station. Of course, Richard E. Grant, Kevin Pollak's in this film, which you've seen in a lot of stuff. Sam McMurran, who's been in a lot of stuff. He played the friend of Clark Griswold in the National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. That's why I know him off the top of my head. But he is playing a lot of different characters in sitcoms and stuff in the early 90s. Larry Miller's in this movie, which is like the dad from 10 Things I Hate About You. John Lithgow, this is a fun fact for this movie. John Lithgow was in this movie in kind of like a weird scene where he flies in on a jetpack and has a conversation with Steve Martin in like a lunch, an outside like lunch table in the LA restaurant. But they cut it out of the movie because they said they had to make it shorter, and it was like a self-contained scene so they could take it out. So I learned that watching the special features, which this has some good special features we'll get into in a second. But yeah, John Lithgow was in the movie, but they cut him out, so he's not in the film. You also see Chevy Chase in this movie for a little bit. So there's just a lot of people in this movie. Directed by Mick Jackson, who also did Volcano and The Bodyguard. He did The Bodyguard with Kevin Costner and Whitney Houston like the year after this movie was made. Another aspect of this movie that I haven't mentioned yet, this is very, it's almost like a satire on life in LA. There are some moments that are just really exaggerated, almost like fantasy in nature in some part, because there's like a billboard sign thing that's like communicating with Steve Martin and like kind of leading him to like his next life decision. So that's it's kind of weird and fantasy driven in that way, which brought some really like interesting and unique aspects to the film that I did enjoy. So overall, it's not a great movie to me. It is one that I would probably watch again, you know, just kind of throw it on and just kind of like an easy watch, just kind of a breezy watch, just kind of like an almost feel good type of watch. Just I always loved watching Steve Martin, but I'll give this a 3.5 out of 5. Again, the movie's not amazing or anything. I'm not saying it's one of the best movies ever made, best rom-coms ever made, but it's a fun watch. I'll give it a 3.5 out of 5 for the actual movie. So getting into this transfer, this is the first time that this movie has been on Blu-ray. I was looking on Blu-ray.com and stuff. Didn't see any other previous releases, but I saw some people mention that maybe there were some other like foreign releases that have come out, which I'm sure there are. But as far as like the USA domestic release, this is the first time that this has been on Blu-ray. This had a DVD release back in 2006 for the 15th anniversary of the film. And you do get some of those special features that were on that in here. So it has been on DVD before, and then 15 years later for the 30th anniversary, we're getting it on Blu-ray. So transfer looks great. All looks great. Like I said, it has a really cool like LA aesthetic to it. Lots of colors. They all pop. Everything looks really good. As far as the transfer, this is a 1:85:1 aspect ratio. Again, 1080p high definition. You get the 5.1 DTS HD master audio as far as the audio and the sound. English 2.0 DTS HD Master Audio, English and Spanish subtitles, English SDH. This is in color, feature runtime 98 minutes, and it is from 1991. Just to kind of run through all the technical specs for you guys. So another thing I didn't mention, I'm just all over the place with my reviews lately, but he's a weatherman in this movie, which I just watched the movie with a weatherman with Nicolas Cage. So you get those like similar vibes, just like I like how movies treat weathermen. It feels like they're just so unimportant. And then, like, I like the take in this one because he's so, like, he knows what he does is absolutely worthless because he's a weatherman in LA and it's always dry and it's the same weather every day. So he just kind of runs in there and does this, like, kooky routine every day where he's, like, wacky and throwing suns and rain clouds everywhere and just kind of making fun of the fact that he's completely useless at this news station. So I like the take on the weatherman in here, whereas Nicolas Cage's was more like just like depression based. But yeah, he's a weatherman in the movie. I just wanted to get that out there. Special features in this. You actually get a new special feature. You get the Mick Jackson's LA story. So you get the director talking about this film. It's about a 25-minute long. That's where you learn about the John Lithgow scene that was cut and just a lot of different things and aspects that went into the making of this film. It's a really interesting interview if you want to learn more about the film. Then you get the 2 special features that were included in the DVD release back 15 years ago. You get the story of LA story, the LA of LA story, and you get some original theatrical marketing material. So one thing that when I was going back and looking at doing my research for the DVD release that came out in 2006, a lot of people were upset back then about the fact that it did not have an audio commentary with Steve Martin, with the director, or anybody. So there is no known recordable audio commentary to this movie. So I think that, you know, it probably would have been a little weird for them to do it now, but they should have done it back in 2006 with the director and Steve Martin. And, you know, if Steve Martin wrote it, I'm sure he could have offered a lot of insights, just like his mindset and what went into the actual writing of this, like, kind of hyper real, kind of fictionalized LA setting. So, and just kind of the satirical nature of his writing with this movie. I'm sure he could have brought some fun insight to that, and it would have been a cool audio commentary. So a lot of people were complaining about that back then, 15 years ago. So again, no surprise, we have no audio commentary for this release as well. So you can complain again or just, you know, embrace what we got. And we got, you know, like I said, new special feature in this. You got the 2 old special features. This is a nice set. This is a nice package. Right now, you can get this for $11.99 on Amazon. So it's a really great price for this release. So I would say it's absolutely worth $11.99. This is a fun Steve Martin movie, and I think you should own it in your collection. This slipcover, the packaging, like I said, Lionsgate always does some really awesome slipcovers. You do have that Studio Canal label on there, so this was a collaboration between Studio Canal and Lionsgate, which they do sometimes. But yeah, I love the colors though that they use on this. It's definitely a lot better than the original postered LA story, which is like silhouettes dancing in the sunlight. I didn't really like that. But that does it for our review of LA Story, guys. If you want to purchase this based on my recommendation, definitely hit that link down below and order this. Like I said, very cheap, $11.99, and totally worth it. So I appreciate you guys watching. Comment down below your thoughts on this film. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Like this video, guys, and turn on all those bell notifications for future videos. And we'll see you next time.